This Sunday's texts, though, are something else, really. The story of Hagar and the angel is one that I could go on about for hours, and I almost decided that was what I was going to preach on today. The reading from Romans is a meaty one, but we're going to be doing quite a bit on Romans next month in study groups. And so instead I thought I'd go headlong into this really quite difficult section of the 10th chapter of Matthew. The reading that we had as the gospel reading today is not straightforward. And the reason it's not straightforward is that it is basically a collection of random sayings. All or almost all of what we heard read is also in one spot or another in Luke's Gospel, and therefore is from a source sometimes known as Q, for those of you who are into the biblical scholarship and the source criticism. But what happens in Matthew's version of the narrative is that these various sayings of Jesus are bundled together and put one after another after he's been doing a bit of teaching of his disciples. And so this sort of continues on from that. And I think one of the ways that preachers really get themselves tied in knots when dealing with this text is attempting to deal with the whole thing. Because actually each one of the little sets of sayings deserves to be, and in fact needs to be, treated discreetly, needs to be looked at as its own saying on its own merits. There's some quite juicy ones, and I'll pass over some of them, but I will have a little look today in a little bit of depth at one of the, in some ways, harder sayings, and it comes towards the end of that reading. So we're in Matthew chapter 10, and you will recall that Jesus says, "I have not come to bring peace, but a sword." Hang on. Isn't Jesus all on about peace and love and compassion and all of that kind of stuff? But it gets worse. "Not peace to the earth, but a sword. I've come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household." What? Surely Christians believe that family is everything. The family unit. You know, if you listen to many Christian leaders, you'd almost think that the family was God. Jesus seems here to be saying the opposite. Father and brother, a father and son, like that. Mother and daughter. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. The butt of many jokes, but actually not a joke, if you've ever been in that situation where the one is fighting against the other. What is it like to rip our families apart for the sake of the gospel? Because that's actually what Jesus is almost advocating in this text. "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me." What is the most important thing? What is the most important thing? It is not our family. Boy, that's hard to hear. That can be a really hard thing to hear. The most important thing is not our relationships with other members of our families, not our relationships with our loved ones, with our friends, with the people that we care about the most. The most important relationship is the relationship with God, the relationship that we have through Jesus Christ. And if our personal relationships with other human beings, even with close members of our family, get in the way of that, then Jesus is pretty clear. We need to make a choice. This is hard. This is really hard stuff. And yet, historically, people have done this time and time again, when faith has pushed them beyond the comfort of family. I've been privy over the years to a number of stories of people who have converted to Christianity, in some cases from other faiths, where to become a follower of Jesus Christ has required them not just to walk away from aspects of their former life, but actually to make themselves so unpalatable to their own family and previous peer group of friends that they can no longer communicate, or at least not in a way that is in any way positive. But the choice has been made that to follow Christ trumps everything else. What does that look like? What does that mean for you? What choices have you made in your life where you've decided that actually my discipleship as a Christian is more important than something else that I care about deeply? And it might be family, but it might be something else. It might be money. It might be a particular course of employment. Have you ever been in a position where you've had yourself being confronted with a kind of a moral choice in an employment context or somewhere else, where the easy thing to do, even the sensible thing to do, is to allow the thing that's a bit dodgy, allow the call that takes you away from what might be described as a gospel position? And have you chosen ever to say, no, actually, my faith is more important, and I can't do that, and I won't do that, even if there are consequences? Each of us sets up our own gods. The God of the family is one that seems to be in Jesus' sight in this saying. In other places, the God of money is front and centre, the God of property, the God of power, the God of control. All of these gods prevent us from being true followers of Jesus. And sometimes, when something that matters, like family, like money, like employment, like position in society, all of which are perfectly reasonable things to have and to want, when these things, though, elevate to the level of becoming gods and get in the way of our relationship with Jesus, then we have to reconsider how we approach them. And sometimes that can be really hard. If we look again, it's not whoever loves father or mother is not worthy of me. It's whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. We are called to love our families. We are called to love the society of which we are a part. We are called to engage. We are called to be people in the world. But first and foremost, we are called to be followers of Jesus Christ, and we are called to love God with our heart and our mind and our soul and our strength. God first. Because there can only be one God. And those times when even something as fundamental as family gets in the way are times when we have to reassess what it is that really matters, who it is that I really am. Because at heart, I may be my parents' child, but at heart, I am really, even more, a child of God. And so are every one of you. The Lord be with you.